those change.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 22nd meeting of the Rochester Planning Commission. And Rose, are you there? Can you call the roll?
Oh, I can call the roll.
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman.
Patrick.
Okay, Chair McGee,
Here.
Vice Chair Hauser,
Here.
Secretary Sage,
Excused. He called it. He's on time.
Mayor Bixon,
Here.
Commissioner Gasson, Commissioner King,
Here.
and Commissioner Kenzuk,
Here.
and Commissioner Stone.
Here. Mr. Lord.
I saw him, for the record, and he said he's trying to make every meeting that he can, so.
So he may
tonight
show.
might be- Yeah, tonight might be iffy for him, but.
Okay. We have a quorum. Please join me with the national anthem.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance.
All right. I didn't want to sing, man.
Hit those high notes, Dennis, yes.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next section is public comment. Is there anyone from the public who has any comment for the commission tonight? Anyone waiting online that has any public comment? Yes, ma'am. Could I have your name, please?
Mute.
You're on mute.
Nancy Dawson.
Hi, Nancy. How are you tonight?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. What can we do for you?
I wonder if you're going to talk about the development proposed for Ludlow?
No, not tonight. That's not on tonight's agenda. I'm told it'll be on in October. October 3rd.
Okay,
October 3rd.
that's why I'm here. Just
Okay,
wanted
so-
to find out for sure.
We'll see you on October 3rd.
October.
Thank you.
20th.
Okay.
October 20th.
Wait, Nancy.
October 20th.
Correction, October 20th, our second meeting in October. So that would be a Thursday in October.
Is that new?
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, and we'll see you in October.
Okay, have a good meeting.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if that's moved, can we somehow communicate that to the neighborhood groups so they don't all come on the 3rd?
Oh, that's a good idea.
And just for the record, I'm going to be in Cleveland that day. I will not be here.
I'm not going to be here either, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, that's all right.
I thought I was,
Never know.
yeah, I thought it was going to be the
We might
3rd.
want to just make sure they'll be in.
Can you push that back to November, please?
Sorry about that.
No, it's-
No, it's obviously this is very important.
Sure.
So it's only 2 weeks. The answer is yes, we will.
Thank you.
It would be November what? Do we know?
First,
It's November 7th,
I think so.
I
Got a little
calendar here, don't we?
Everybody.
Seventh would be the
especially
first Monday.
Yep, that's fine.
More
So
experienced
that's what we will do.
members.
Okay, sorry,
We're gonna need it.
Yeah.
Even though that's just the first presentation, that's the big one, because they're
Sure.
gonna come in with everything they've got. It's gonna be able to write a report that says they've submitted everything, so what happens after that's the rezoning and the site plan, but.
Long way to go, but that will be the first wave, so
Correct.
I'd rather we had all of, particularly our experienced people here. It's very important.
I apologize for the inconvenience.
No apology at all.
Okay.
And
Then I'm
thanks
not
for
gonna-
letting us know. I would,
Right, Mayor, that way people would we never said the 3rd, but we just said we put upcoming events, but they would have assumed.
Right. Is there, Mr. Chairman,
yes,
is
please.
there a leader of their group or,
There's a couple,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, so there's a couple, and we're keeping a list, everybody that's emailing, Patrick's got a spreadsheet, so we'll contact them directly through their email. And I think Eric and Cody are the lead for that group. They have a petition with 500 people's names. Most of them are Rochester Hills right now, but we will make sure everybody
Thank you.
goes up and down everywhere. Because this is, the developer wants that, they want to be
Yeah.
transparent.
So Nancy, an update, because of some conflicts, we're going to push this back to the first meeting in November.
Okay.
So that'll be the
what would
first
that
time-
date be?
7th? November 7th. So that'll be Monday, November 7th.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thanks for catching that and marshaling that for us. Any other public comment? I just want to jump in for a minute and apologize for not making the last meeting. I'm afraid I was still in summer mode, and I was away. Then I got a call from Nick, who said, "Hey, Dennis." So I screwed that one up. So anyway, sorry about that. Let's see, next is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of September 6th. If you've had a chance to review them, does anyone have a motion?
So moved.
Mayor's moved to approve those minutes. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Kenjic. Any discussion? The roll call, please.
Mayor Bixson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenzuk,
Yes.
Commissioner Stone,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser,
Yes.
and Chairman McGee.
Yes. Thank you very much. Next item is number 5, public hearings, and we do not have any public hearings this evening. So we'll skip ahead. Next is item number 6, considerations. This is discussion of ordinance changes pursuant to the master plan. And we have our planners here with us tonight, so if you'd introduce yourself, and then the floor is yours.
Sure. Good evening. My name is, good to see everyone again. My name is Raphael Kaysen. I'm a senior planner with the firm of McKenna. I'm here with our president CEO, John Jackson. I am the project manager for the zoning code update for the city of Rochester.
Very good.
Should I go right ahead?
Go right ahead.
All right. So thank you, everybody. I'm just gonna minimize this. First question is, did everybody receive the handout? So it should have been 2 documents, right? There was a summary of text amendment changes, and then there was the very large 140-page zoning code with all of the changes highlighted in red. Everyone got that, I'm assuming.
We believe we have it.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. I will maximize this. All right. So, why are we here today? We're here today to talk about the draft zoning districts specifically for the downtown. So we are only going to be talking about the downtown tonight, and I'll kind of show the process here. This is, you'll see that this is it's an incomplete process because as I know, the Planning Commission I don't think has their dates yet, probably for 2023. But the idea here is really to try to have these discussions in chunks, right? So we'll be having the presentation discussion of the downtown zoning district draft. That's tonight, and that's right now. We'll be taking your feedback, right? Getting proposed revisions, taking lots of notes. We'll be going back to the office. We're going to be making those changes, and then the plan is to have that submitted to you by the end of October. Again, we can always change these dates, but this is based on the current schedule, right? So we'll make those changes, and then when we come back to you on the 7th, we are going to be presenting ostensibly what would not only be the final downtown districts, but then the draft business and office districts. The reason why we're going in this order, because obviously D1 is very much adjacent to this, to the downtown. It's a logical next step, right? We also know that office, there's going to be stuff to discuss in terms of the 1 versus 2 districts. So then, following that, we go to 1121. Get your revisions on the business office, make those changes, come back on the 5th of December, present the business office final, then we do mixed use. And we'll continue this, until we get to all of the districts, right? Ostensibly we get all of that, and then my thinking is, and obviously we can have this conversation, is perhaps, one final meeting with the Planning Commission that's not a public hearing to go over all the districts and then have the public hearing. Or we could just go right to the public hearing. But the idea here is really, as opposed to sort of adopting these either in terms of individual districts or even parts of, or even sort of sections of the city, to do this all at once. We want to have a fully updated zoning map by this time and a fully updated zoning text that can be really adopted wholesale and then sent to the council. That is our thinking. Yes, sir.
Raphael, just for the benefit of the public, the purpose of this exercise follows on our recent adoption of the revised master plan. So
Yes.
this exercise is to now bring the zoning ordinance into sync with the newly adopted master plan.
That is correct. I appreciate that, Chairman. Yes, the master plan, and I really appreciate Patrick bringing, I'll just hold this up briefly. This is the updated future land use plan for the city of Rochester. This is directly from the master plan. So everything that you're seeing, today in terms of downtown, it's going to focus obviously on this area right here. As you can see. But it all stems from, the work that was done on the master plan, and it all follows the recommendations in there. So we'll talk about that. I mean, we're pretty focused on zoning and a little bit on land use tonight, but I will be talking about, existing land use, but obviously I will be talking about, why we're going in this direction, right? So.
Very good.
All right. Any questions so far? All right. So topics over. Now, I do, this PowerPoint, which I realize you folks haven't seen yet, this is going to get into the actual boundaries and the maps. So I do want to spend some time talking about that because I know we really haven't. I mean, last time John went over the sort of the layers, we talked about, the perspective changes, but this PowerPoint will still hopefully get into some of the nitty gritty here so we can talk about the actual changes that are happening on the ground. After that, I do want to get into a discussion on the text changes. And hopefully you'll see, while there aren't any sort of major changes, because I do want to point out that in particular these downtown districts, DE1, DE2, and transition, were actually adopted, certainly they were referred at least to council, and I think they've even been passed by council in their earlier form. So we'll talk about what changes. So when we talk about changes, some of that is referring to those specific ordinances as they, were there. And when you see in the packet that I sent, while it was the entire zoning code, I kind of sort of slipped in there DE1, DE2, and transition, even though they're not actually in the code right now, but we're acting as if it is. Does that make sense?
We adopted them 3 years ago, probably?
Yeah.
Is it really 5 years ago?
So, and just for the benefit of everyone here, the reason why those are not don't have teeth at this point, so they're not enforceable, is because since they weren't published, they're not actually enforceable as zoning districts, which is why, but it also gives us an opportunity, right, to go back, look at it, and now we can do it all in one go, and do it all, sort of coherently.
Okay.
So, we're talking about downtown, so current proposed zoning, existing land use, and then some key changes. All right. So, what you're looking at here is the Rochester downtown. On the left is how it is now with existing zoning, and on the right is the proposed zoning. Obviously, a couple of changes here. Now, just to clarify, not all of these districts you can see, this is taken off of our GIS, so some of this is a little bit redundant. There's no O2 here. I don't think there's any research park. There's no I2, but so it's hard to kind of cut and paste all of these. But you can see the downtown at this point. This is still currently what's in place, right? Back based on 2015 zoning, most of the downtown is encompassed in CBD or is CBD, which is really central business district. I know it says general business here, but it's really central business district. The outskirts, where you see this bright red, are now all B1, and we'll talk about what's going to happen to the downtown in terms of the general business district in a bit. In this sort of northwestern quarter over here, you have O1 limited office. The gray is parking. We'll talk about what's going to happen with that. And then you actually have little spots of industrial over here. What we're doing with the new zone district, and again, this is really should be kind of a review for a lot of folks, right? Because this was already sort of in process, as the chairman mentioned 3 years ago. Is we've taken, I'm sorry, I apologize. This should be T over here. We've taken sort of this whole area and we've sort of divided into 4 different districts. B1 actually isn't here. You can ignore that. So the CBD now is really sort of either side of Main Street, right? Going down, 4 blocks south here, 3 here, and that is now the CBD. And when we get into the text amendments and some of the changes there, we can talk about some of the differences. One of the key differences is we're eliminating the P1 district, right? So parking is now going to be sort of restricted, if you will, or limited to what is here noted as DE2. DE2 is downtown, for everyone, the benefit is DE is downtown edge. So there's downtown edge 1 on the west side here and the north, and then there's downtown edge 2, which takes up the majority of the east side of downtown, and then sort of the pocket in the northwest and southwest.
And Raphael, explain how this relates to the future land use plan designation.
Sure. And again, do you have it over here?
Yeah.
So in short, what the future land use plan did is it sort of designated 2 separate classes of land use, right? Future land use. There was the downtown core, which is consistent with the CBD, and everything outside of it was what is what the planners called downtown interface. And the downtown interface is comprised of DE1, DE2, and T. And I apologize, this left off. This here is the transition district. We'll talk about that in a minute. There should be a little purple here. That's the transition district.
So the areas that are shown on this graphic right here are the areas designated in the future land use plan as downtown core and downtown
Correct.
interface.
Downtown interface. Correct. So downtown core essentially is this area here, and downtown interface essentially is everything around that. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that parking is only in DE2
In this proposed zoning, correct.
because we have a deck in the DE1
Well,
on the west side.
Yeah.
there is a, why isn't it listed on here? Really? Then that might be a mistake.
Right behind like the city
Right,
tavern
that-
or whatever.
This area here?
Yep.
All right, we can make that change. So, so then I'll correct that. Essentially, then parking will be allowed in the DE1. The idea is to keep it out of the CBD,
Okay.
the downtown core. So yeah, DE2 and DE1 would allow that type of parking, but just not, on Main Street. Any questions so far?
Well, we say not on Main Street, except there is a spot down there that's DE2, that's on Main Street.
Fair enough, yeah. Main Street from.
Why is that separated from the CBD, that spot?
So I'm glad you asked that. We're gonna get to existing land use in a second, and I think that'll hopefully answer your question. So actually, I think our next slide, this just gets into what this should hopefully be somewhat helpful. So this is the aerial, right? This is the satellite image of the downtown currently. This is the existing land use. So to your question is about this area over here, Commissioner?
Yeah.
All right.
That's designated as not part of the downtown core in your future land use plan. So in the future land use plan, Main Street is all designated as downtown core, from University all the way down to First Street, basically, except for that one area on the east side of the street.
Do we miss something?
No, I think that's probably a reflection of the existing use on the property.
Nick, is that parcel in the DDA?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's the,
This here.
It's
Party
Penn
store.
strip center, then
Station.
the cleaners.
By the quick
and then
pick there?
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure why it wouldn't be part of.
Well-
We had talked about Main Street traditional Main Street doesn't start until Second Street, but you would think it'd be both sides of the street. That I really can't explain that. That's kind of weird.
Again, I think it was probably with the expectation is that site wasn't gonna redevelop anytime soon because, it's viable.
It is though.
Is it? Okay, well, then I can't explain.
Right. So here, can I, if I may?
Yeah.
Sure.
We didn't, this is a new opportunity. We have new members on this commission. It's not a great document. That's all I'm gonna say. There's a lot of things we've already found that don't make sense on how it got adopted this
In the
next
new
time. Yeah.
master plan?
Yeah. So, I think this is our opportunity, we had talked to John about this, to get it right. So, whatever, John's the expert on this, do we have to amend the master plan once we get
Yeah.
what we want there? And do that at the same time we do these districts? But if we find things like that, it certainly is no different than across the street, it's a strip
You
center.
don't mind us pointing them out as we see them?
I think so, yeah, and John, maybe we'll figure a way to
Yep,
modify those. right?
Absolutely.
So I don't wanna
We can
even,
amend the master plan and catch-all, that's terrific.
right, cause we've seen a few already that can't explain it, we weren't in charge of it, so it is what it is, so.
Okay.
It's not as thorough as when McKenna did it the first time, let's just put it that way. Okay. So that's when you are 100% right. It's right for redevelopment. They're looking at we've had it how many times here?
Yeah.
3, 4-story, 5-story building.
Very attractive
John,
site.
to go up at 120 South Main. Now with the cleaners available, we would like to incorporate those two. So it would be logical to say it's the same as everything north.
So, okay, and we'll have to look into it, because one of the goals of the central business district was to not encourage redevelopment in the historic part of the downtown. So there were height limits and restrictions placed on, the development right along Main Street.
The buildings
reason
that are
that-
on it are not historic.
No.
They're already redeveloped.
No, but I think there was a general consensus that people didn't want wholesale redevelopment of Main Street. If
Yeah.
someone wanted to replace a one-story building with a two-story building, maybe that was okay, it's still in scale and keeping with the character of the downtown. But there was recognition that east of downtown, right, that was where we anticipated seeing a lot of redevelopment. And so the building heights that are allowed in that area to the east of downtown are higher than what's allowed on Main Street, okay? So, to Nick's point, this area that comes out to Main Street that's in the bright red on the east side there is probably gonna be larger than a two-story building.
Unless we
So-
amend,
I don't know that makes, on the west side there, on the same, block, on the west side, the land goes down, and so you have the taller buildings, but they're still, my understanding is they're still limited to meet in the same, roof height of downtown. Why would we allow a 3 to 4-story building right at the corner of Main Street that's gonna be taller than all the
So I
rest
can explain,
downtown?
if I may, Mr. Chairman. So as you come into town, now this is all coming back to me. I was trying to find the existing zoning map. I think that one's zone B1. The reason it's zone B1 is across the street, it's B1. Because before you got to Second, we have Angot. Angot is 3 stories from the street. So we thought, to balance downtown, before you hit Second Street, you could have 3 stories up to Second Street, and then Main Street starts, now you're in the core. So we did not call the core from south of Second, which would allow, but we didn't want it any taller than 3 stories. We fought them when they came in, remember, they came in for
Yeah.
a 5-story building like the Royal Park. We said, no, follow the zoning ordinance, which at most is 3. So, and we'd have a hard time in court if they rezoned it, or tried to come in with the site plan that was the same as across the street, which is zoned the exact same thing.
so leave it like it is, in other words?
Well, so what are you saying, Nick? Are you saying that?
Well, but Angot is part of the central business
No,
district.
yeah, that's why I'm looking to see what the zoning is.
Are you saying this whole area should be more than 2 stories and that the core doesn't start until here?
That was the discussion we had with Beckett, that it doesn't, the historic part, there's nothing historic south. Well, that's not true, because we just redid the Gateway Center. On that side of the street, nothing was there. It was a strip center
On which side?
on the east side. So just let me find the zoning map here real quick, because
That's what,
that's,
is that south of Second?
yes. Okay, here we go. All right, so presently, Mill Second. No, it's core all the way through. The existing zoning map is the same on both sides of the street, all the way up and down.
Yeah.
So that's included
In the,
core.
it was in
Here's the
CBD.
existing zoning right
Yeah,
here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's right there.
Then it shouldn't change.
So this should really be DE2, we're saying? This
No.
whole section?
Well,
It should be core.
Well, this,
And what's the limitation on core? How many stories?
2 stories, 35.
2, and you got that,
So we have a non-conforming use in Angot then, right? Because they're 3 stories.
Unless it was a special project.
It actually wasn't, because it was in the parking exempt zone, so they didn't need any parking. They have a building, an office building with no parking.
yeah.
All these weird stories here.
Yeah, I think it's well, it's a 4-story building, but it's 3 from
3 from
Main.
Main Street, right. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. This is a chance to talk about that. Do you want a 3-story on the other side of the street, so you'd have twin pillars coming down the bridge? And then starting north of Second, no, just 2 stories.
Personally, I think it's different on the east side because the Angot building doesn't go up to Second Street. There's still Gateway, there's still
Right.
whatever's the next
FedEx.
one, FedEx. whereas the other one would be right next to,
It would block a lot of the historic
Yeah.
area that we're trying to
Yeah.
maintain coming down the hill.
Agate is on the west side, the furthest south white block. Is
Is
that-
there an easy way to get to Google Earth? If you drove, Google, if we did
Or
that?
put-
Well, he's got the
You
aerial.
had that aerial a minute ago.
Yeah, I would say if you're on the
Got it.
street view, you would see what you're talking about, but,
I mean, I could try to zoom in on the aerial if you want.
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Have to,
So Agate is the black roof there you see. On the west side of Maine at the very bottom of the,
Correct.
Keep zooming
Well, no,
in.
it's
Yeah,
down,
no,
it's
it-
even
Move it
further.
over here.
And then the slider on the right there.
Closer?
No, that's good. So it's the white, it's cut right through the aerial. See the white,
here?
that's it right there.
That's Angot?
That's Angot.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's got no parking, it's zero lot line right there, and it's 3 stories. So always, the argument from the developers were that I should be able to at least go 3 stories on the east side as you have twin towers coming into town. And then you scale it back after that. Now, you could literally draw the line at the cleaners, right across the street from Angot. You could say that parcel could, if you wanted a 3-story building there, you could make that its own, whatever, it'll allow 3 stories. And then say from Penn Station, that whole strip stays 2, just like across the street at Gateway. Gateway's 1, basically, and so is Penn Station, so, interesting.
what's the expectation of the current owners? Are we gonna get into a,
We told them here, if you come in and meet the ordinance requirements, our hands are tied. Right now, it's zoned CBD. So I believe they can do a 3-story building. If they park it, not a special project, just straight up zoning, then if we go backwards from that, we're down zoning them. I'd be a little worried about that. I don't know how you feel about that, John.
Well, so, you know, the other part of that is, I'm sorry, the other part of that is special projects boundary cuts off at Second Street. So everything south of Second Street could go through the special projects process to get greater height. Nick?
Yeah, true.
Whereas anything north of that, so
Yeah.
Raphael, so if you go back,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. So anything above this right here is not eligible for special project. Anything here in the core is not eligible for special projects. Down here, it is eligible for special project consideration.
That's a way to control it.
If I'm looking at it now, the existing land use, it shows it the same as the downtown core. So isn't that all 2-story?
Correct.
So we
That's
wouldn't be
just land use.
changing,
That's just land use. There's various building heights.
But there's nothing over 2
that's
stories.
not the zone, is that the zoning?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking up right now to see.
The existing land use is just what the existing uses are on the property, right? It's not height and it's different than the zone.
Is it
It may be
commercial, is it
different than
residential?
zone too. It's what's actually there right now.
Okay. What's the current zoning on it then?
CBD.
Raphael,
Which part are we talking about?
go back to the existing zoning map for a sec. It's all zone CBD.
Just briefly, everyone, if everyone can take out the comparison of the downtown districts, folks receive that summary list. You know, CBD, we're talking about a maximum building height here of 35 feet or 3 stories. And it's the same as the downtown edge 1. Downtown edge 2 goes higher to 40 feet, but they're pretty consistent. Are we talking about a 5, you know, this is a 5-story building that has a major exception here, or?
But the difference, Raphael, is that the area south of Second is in the special projects.
I see what you're
It's
saying, okay.
eligible
I got
for, which is the equivalent of a PUD.
Right.
Which means that they can go higher if they can demonstrate that they meet the criteria.
I see.
I got this. All right, so right now, if anybody came in, and they can, because it's that whole strip, all the way up down Main Street, zone CBD, 3 stories, 35 feet tall, can't stop them. If they come in with a building on Main Street and add a 3rd story to Main Street Billiards, they have that by permitted right. I think when we went through this the first time with McKenna, we talked about, we don't like that. We don't mind even them all on 2 stories. We talked about, and Matt, you're right, blocking, we don't want things behind it, blocking the front. We did the skyline test.
The
right?
skyline test,
Correct.
yeah.
So I think that was all the control from Second Street north to University, only 2 stories. And we didn't want to punish the people south of Second because of Angot was already there. So if we made that however we want to handle that, and you're right, you can handle it by saying you can't go over 2 stories unless you had special projects. But why not? The whole goal of this process is to get the underlying zoning so that developers know what they can do when they come in, right? So wouldn't we zone from Second Street to the city border only up to 3 stories? So that does mean Gateway, in theory, could put a second and third story on there, if that's what you want. Or you, literally, mid-block, why couldn't you draw a line and say, Angot set the cadence at 3 stories, go straight across the street, and I think that's the cleaners and the collision shop.
No, it's the bridge, it's
Just
the
the-
river, it's down below. The cleaners and the collision shop
It would
line
be
up
at
with
least- it would
Gateway.
be at least
Above
the-
and below,
It would be
yeah.
at least the collision shop.
No, it lines up with Gateway.
Let's see here, right here. Where's, okay, where's Angot?
Because Angot's like that
Oh, you're right,
white.
you're 100% right. Gotcha. So, yep, you're right, it is directly across from the Gateway. That's right, so.
Just orient me again, Nick, so we're talking here?
Yeah, see, the white building, that's 3 stories.
Yeah.
And
And then
Sarah's
across.
right. The parcel we're talking about, that's, they want to do 5 stories on or whatever, is south of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even in that picture, so.
So the existing, I'm looking at the worksheet that was sent out. It says existing zoning, CBD, Central Business District. We're proposing to change that to CBD Central Business District. Same name, but does that change?
The boundaries of the CBD. So that's what we were saying, so the central business district currently now, right, is, my plan? Is literally it's all of downtown, really, right?
Both sides of Main Street.
Both sides.
Well, and beyond, and well beyond.
And what we're essentially doing is dividing up, right, central business district into 4 districts. So there's,
Okay, so as it is today, though, what's the building height for that area versus what the lightest purple will be the core Central Business District and the proposed?
I'm not sure if I follow you. What's the current what the height is for CBD for the entire thing?
All along Main Street, how tall can you go, from where to where?
35 feet, and is it 3 stories? I think.
That's what it is now.
35
Is that
feet,
what we're
3 stories,
proposing to
yeah.
keep it?
Yes,
Because we-
for the core area.
Because
So-
we maintain that,
In the new proposed, does that change?
it does.
Yeah.
So,
No.
Well, go to that slide, Rob.
This one here?
Just,
Yeah,
uh,
so,
let me just get up, sorry.
I'm sorry, I keep hammering this, but
no,
No,
that's
this
okay.
this is why we're doing this.
No, this is the
because
whole, this
we're
is
trying to find
why
these
we're
long
here.
It's the
things.
process.
Exactly why we're here.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
so right now, everything that's in this light pink
Yeah.
shade right here, 35 feet tall, 3 stories.
okay.
Presently, current.
Yeah,
Yeah.
existing zoning.
Yeah.
That's what's currently zoned for. This is the proposed zoning based on the future land use plans in the master plan. And it calls for this area right here, these areas in the pink or purple, light purple, to be 35 feet, 3 stories.
Still.
It has a taller allowance for buildings here,
Okay.
relatively the same here, 35 feet and 3 stories. The difference is, one of the differences, that this part right here is eligible for special projects, whereas these 6 blocks are not. So you're not gonna get someone requesting a special project to go 5 stories here, but you might get that anywhere down here.
So I'd make 2 comments. One, in the proposed, the Angot building, which is cut off, is shaded the CBD, which it would not meet the current zoning, or the proposed zoning, right?
Yep,
No,
it's
it
currently
would
zoned that
3
way
and 3.
too, yeah. But your point's well made, yep.
So that should be like a DE2. or DE1, I don't
John,
know.
you said the light purple is still 3 stories on all of Maine. Nothing changed, right?
The purple.
Correct.
Oh,
Pink.
Pink.
This
That-
white
what's
shade
that?
right here.
How
Whatever
does
this
it go?
color
that's
is.
only 2.
No, it's 3 stories.
Still 3.
It is still 3?
Yeah.
So 3 stories, 35 feet.
I thought it was
Then-
2 all the way down Main Street.
Then why would we even consider putting the Penn Station property in DE2 versus CBD?
Where's the Penn Station property?
That's the corner, that's a red one.
This here?
It was designated as downtown interface on the future land use plan. Now, why that decision was made, I don't know.
Let's put this up. Sorry, it's hard to see. So it's
CBD is
literally
3 right now.
this little spot here.
And you're sure that on
Yeah.
that side, that's still 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So north of Second Street is 3 stories,
It always has been, and I guess it's.
but we have that view restriction.
That's true. We have the,
3 stories if you
Line
can
of
meet
sight.
the,
well, the line of sight though is for the buildings behind it. They can't get taller than what's on the front. So if you went 3 on Main Street, heck, you're going 5 or 6 in the back ends because it drops off there, right? So.
yeah.
Does the proposed DE1 and DE2 allow for 5 stories along Walnut and,
I'm gonna assume no.
No. This here,
yeah,
5 stories?
No, he's asking.
No.
Not by right, not by right.
what does it
But
allow
south of
for?
Second,
What's that?
What does it allow for in
By
height?
right, 35 feet and 3 stories. In the downtown edge 1, in the downtown edge, it allows 3 stories, 40 feet in height.
For downtown edge 2.
Right, but keep in mind that the ground slopes
That's why we
down,
went to 40
allowing
because
for
it could be-
greater height on the building. Yep.
Plus, everything to the east is also in the special project designation area. Whereas, well, yeah, I guess that area along Walnut also special project.
south of Second is special project.
So is this whole area right here. This whole area is eligible for special projects. Right, so they could come in requesting higher than the 3 stories or 40 feet, subject to meeting the skyline test and other things. And then this area is also eligible for special projects as well, but I think there's a provision, there used to be a provision that said they couldn't go higher than 3 stories, I think, over there.
There's something
I'm
on,
not
yeah,
positive.
Walnut, there's transitions, there's a bunch of footnotes.
Special projects,
Yep,
while they have a right to be considered, they don't have a vested right for height over 3 stories.
correct.
They have to make their case. It rests with the planning commission as to whether or not we accept it.
And the
But they don't have
sustainability
it by right.
criteria and all the other things that we review when we review special projects.
So by denying it, we're not jeopardizing ourselves as a city.
And all special projects come to the city council, right?
Yeah.
That's the final say now.
Yeah.
So to my question would be on the right side, the red, on the south side, right there, the little, what do we want to do on that block? Why should we treat that different? Because you're right, it goes up to
Shouldn't be.
nothing. It should be the same as across the street. Why are we telling, which is 3 stories max, and not a special project necessarily. We could just lock it in, John, and say.
As we
that's
sit here
your
tonight, that's what it is.
That is correct.
But I think people, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, correct, it
Yeah.
is, right.
I thought people didn't like the building in the first place.
Yeah.
No.
That's considered an eyesore.
It was on the sidewalk, it was 5 stories
Right.
above.
Yeah.
So just because it's here doesn't mean we should necessarily
Yeah,
go
no,
there
I
just
meant,
because
I
it's here.
think.
Make it mirror
the
image.
zoning
Right.
is
I
presently
mean-
CBD all the way, and now we differentiated them.
Yeah, I don't see why we would differentiate it.
What do they get, so John, what do they get by being in DE2 versus,
5 extra feet of height,
okay,
by right,
okay,
But tonight, they don't have that.
correct.
correct.
So why don't we make that light colored and leave it alone?
And say they're treated the same as the whole, everybody up and
Right.
down Main Street.
And if they want to do something different, they can go through the special project
Correct.
process.
We talk about this being CBD.
Just
Just
the
just
little-
those
just
two.
Those 2 little
These
blocks
two
there,
here?
yeah.
Only
Yeah.
those 2 fronting Main Street.
I think you've corrected your problem right there.
Right.
I think we do.
And we didn't hurt anybody. because we're not taking away the right
There's
to go to
nothing
3
new,
stories.
nothing to have.
It's the same as it was.
So my only thing would be if that Angat property, which is really at the bottom on the left, which is cut off, but should we change it to be DE2? Oh, no, if it's 35,
It's 35 right now.
Okay, all right.
Because we measure from the front, not the
okay,
back, so.
so we don't have to
So
change.
I think we fix everything by just taking that red code. And I think I remember this, they're talking about differentiating at Second Street. Why give that, why even open the door to go to 40 feet?
Right.
South of Second Street, don't do it, and got 35, so.
So now that the mud is somewhat clear, the purple strip of 4 blocks between Pine and Walnut are what again?
That is the transition district.
So that should be T1, you just didn't list it there.
That's right, apologies, that is the T, well, not T1, just T,
Okay.
just the T district. This height, we mentioned 25 feet, the height limit is 25 feet or 2 stories as of right. For the T
The
district.
transition is intended to, obviously transition from the downtown area to the adjacent residential.
Nick, I don't remember when Angat went in. Was that a special project?
No, because I looked that up, because I always wondered, how the heck did they do that? Mayor, you might have been, were you here when they built that? Do you remember? I bet
Yeah,
you.
but I'm not sure I was on the planning commission though.
Yeah, so it was by right, 3 stories, 35 feet, and then, like Sarah said, it drops off there, so it's 4 stories in the back. And they're in the parking exempt zone, so they didn't have to provide any parking.
So they didn't need any variances to build it.
Not,
So it's 35 feet from the road surface essentially, so it's in
the
compliance.
front door is what it's
Yeah.
on Main Street, correct?
So it's in compliance.
Correct. So that is a conforming building.
Okay with that, Sarah?
I am.
Angat is in compliance.
Yeah. Then, yeah, if it wasn't, I was gonna say, let's address it. but-
Designated,
Right.
yeah.
So I still say though that, I thought downtown it couldn't be 3 stories. So like Hague's building,
Yeah, they all can be 3 stories.
is that 3 stories?
Nobody's ever done it, but you could.
But 35
But
feet,
35
the
feet.
fact of the matter is,
It's
you
hard to get
can't
3
build a
stories in 35
3-story
feet,
building in
right.
35
That's-
You'd have to go.
Yeah, you need 45 feet to do a
Okay,
pure.
so then
theory,
so
that's
then
for
it's
sure.
really,
for sure.
It's 2.5 stories.
Yeah.
So why don't we
Yeah, no,
Why
that's
don't
true.
we say that as opposed to saying it's 3
Yeah.
3 stories,
Don't
but
say
you,
3 stories.
yeah,
No,
it's
that's
3
good.
stories, but you can't really build 3 stories. That's what it is now, right? So
Well-
why don't we say,
But the building that we were just talking about might all of a sudden become a problem. How many stories is that?
3.
That would become non-conforming then,
But that'd be the only one.
because it's
right,
got
but that,
three.
well, but
What's the sight line
that's just a
consideration?
suggestion, I
Yeah,
guess.
no, I
It
get
doesn't
it.
affect anything on
I
Main
get it.
Street, it's everything behind it. You can't build higher
can't build
behind,
a-
where if
you
you.
can't build a
shoot-
3-story
You
on
can see the
35 feet?
building from behind.
But Main
Put
Street
ceilings?
You could, I don't,
Below ceilings.
but
For
you could
commercial?
if you had low, yeah, like, seems like you could build a 3-story.
No.
I mean, 10-foot clear, in theory, you could, that's what Angat is. It's pure 3 stories, they're not very tall ceilings.
Right. I don't
I,
think,
I don't know why somebody's never added a 3rd story on the Main Street building. Well, I do know why, it's the foundations, you'd have to dig out the whole thing. But-
Probably can't support it, Ken.
But to the mayor's point, he's saying that if you don't want 3 stories, why say 3 stories? Say 35 feet and 2 stories. You're not making anybody non-conforming except for Angat.
right. And that's kind of what we've always said is, we want to protect the downtown,
And keep it 2 stories.
and then the rest is okay.
Right.
Okay.
I think I like that. Now, taking away, technically, somebody's right, but,
Yeah.
but we
Versus
still
just
said, we
leaving
didn't
it
take the
alone.
height away. We just, go ahead and make it a 3-story, go ahead and make, no, you can't do that.
So, I just want to clarify, apologies, are we saying it's a 3-story, but with a max of 35 feet
Yeah.
regardless?
That's what it is right now, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. that's
Which
what
is
it
not
right
gonna
now, and
be
that's what we're
viable
proposing.
for most people.
Well, what if somebody came in and tore down an existing building, dug a basement,
Yeah.
and went the full 35 feet? You could get a good 3-story
But
building that
technically
way.
3, but not by our definition, because we measured the story starting at the main floor.
Right.
The grade at the front store.
You could go 4 stories below ground if you
Right.
wanted to.
That's Angat. They're, no, not 4 below.
So, I mean, you're almost like, almost like challenging a builder to,
You can add another story.
yeah. Because they, that's like, in between the houses where you have the bay window that goes out,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So I think you're right. Hague's probably the tallest building, and that's just pure 2 stories. And he
It's
might
this
be pushing
facade up
30.
there, isn't it?
It's not 30, It's not 30 feet, I'm almost guess that. He's got tall ceilings, but I bet she's 27. So I wonder if you say 2 stories, 30 feet, what have you done to?
Jewelry store.
Would they would take any rates? I don't think so.
No, not.
Because we haven't made any building other than, and if you wanted to play that game to cover our butts, we make and got DE1, because they're down below everything, and they're compliant now, they're 3 stories, 35, right? So, and that would not, that's not even on that map, so that might be a way to cover them. We'd have no nonconformities than if we go 2 stories, 30 feet in the core. I could live with that.
Yeah, I got a futuristic planning, as a
Might.
planner, maybe.
What do you think, John? So we're not making anybody nonconforming.
Look out, Patrick.
We'll make and got
Yeah, there you go.
red, because they're not even in there, and then everybody's gonna
If
go.
you
the only
take
thing
away
I've ever
3
seen.
stories,
Both sides of the street.
In all my years.
Of Main Street, yeah, both sides of the street, yep.
if you
So
take
the whole
away
floor.
3 stories, 35 feet, you are taking away.
But you're still leaving it at 35.
We don't know what people's plans are out there.
All right, so let's think this through. Could we go, so it's in the zoning ordinance, we say you can still go to 35 feet, we haven't hurt you, but you'd have to go to the zoning board and say, I want to make my 35 feet 3 stories. I want my ceilings to be 7 feet tall, let me do it. The zoning board could probably grant that waiver because,
No,
why not? It's not,
that's not a practical difficulty.
it's our interpretation of the ordinance.
No. They'd be
We
better
leave it
off
like it
going-
is.
Allowing it as a special land use. But,
That's true.
but I mean, it sounds like the intent is to keep it 2 stories, 35 feet. That's the intent. So,
What does it say today? 3, 35?
yeah.
Yeah. So we're saying 235, that's really the same thing.
And south of Second Street, you could ask for a special project
Anyway,
to exceed that,
yeah,
but north you cannot.
correct.
And it's not a practical building. 3 stories in,
Right.
it's not,
Yeah, yeah. So you're saying,
it's not gonna be viable commercial property. It might be spiteful, but
yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, Jonathan, where are you going? If we said permitted use, 2 stories, 35 feet, special land use, 3 stories, 35 feet, but you have to ask and prove why, and then we could put it through scrutiny. Could you do that?
Yes.
So make that a special exception, not a special project, a special exception. And under special exceptions, we write criteria, what you have to meet in order to do that. So it would be that you're not out of character with the buildings on both sides of you, all of a sudden we pop up this thing in the middle. But you wouldn't, because it's still 35 feet. It's just that how you're gonna, the windows are gonna look, right? You'd have 3 levels versus 2 levels.
the risk of leaving it like it is what?
Somebody's gonna put a 3rd story on all of downtown core.
It-
Here
It's
and
going
there.
to put pressure on tearing down a building, to
Yes.
someone's point.
Yes.
In order to reconfigure it so they could get 3 stories on it. That's sort of the,
And we
The
came
risk.
pretty close with sports memorabilia. Once he got in there, he was just doing 2 stories straight up, and he was 30 feet. He hit 28 feet by code, and then when he got in there, everything was rotted, so he basically took it down on the inside. He could have went 3 stories and got
One more
2
up.
stories of condos, but he didn't do it, yeah. He has one giant condo or apartment on the upper floor that's got 14-foot ceilings.
So maybe
We are taking away the risk of somebody putting a 3rd story all downtown. I like that.
But I mean, don't you think that building looks 100% better than what was there before?
But he didn't change the height. Yes, I do, but he didn't change the height of it.
So then,
Baby,
change the.
I hate, you gotta, come on, we wanna hear it.
Please, come up to
But you gotta come up and give
come
us
to the
your name.
lectern.
They can hear it on the mic.
Yes.
Love to hear from you.
I'm Julianne DiTomaso. I live on University at 426.
Hi, Julie, welcome.
Thank you. My only concern with your significant changes in these rules are, as much as we love the historic aspect of downtown Rochester, many of those buildings could benefit from a significant refresh. And
Yeah.
as you age your real estate, it just looks worse. And you have to compete against Birmingham and Royal Oak and other places. So
Well-
the more restrictive you become, you're going, and I mean, don't we agree that the sports card shop looks 100% better than the ugliness that sat there for decades before? So
But it's just 2 stories. It's not 3.
it falls within the rules, you know? So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with 3 stories if it fits in attractiveness, and don't you get to approve what the building actually looks like? I mean, they
Somewhat,
can't come
yeah.
in and,
Somewhat, yeah.
I mean, you were commenting on the material they're using for, you know, their awning, so I would think you have quite a bit of control over what the ultimate building would look like.
So what you're saying is leave it alone
Leave it alone, and let people
and manage
enhance.
whatever is applied for.
On a case-by-case basis.
I think,
Yeah.
I think if we have the height restriction, I mean, it obviously sets some limits, and
Yeah.
you've got to work within that, and
The current height restriction is what, 30 feet?
30 feet.
35.
35 feet.
35 feet, right. So
And 3
35
stories.
3 stories. So if we went 2 stories by right, 2 stories, 35 feet, special exception, the 3rd story, so you play within that 35 feet, but you can put an extra floor if you want to, doesn't matter, it won't change the character, because it's still that height, and you still can fix the outsides of the buildings, so.
at 35 feet, couldn't you still do like a 12-foot ceiling on the first floor and then 9 and 9?
You could. And that's kind of what's been the worry
Right.
6 years ago, that they're gonna start doing that. They're gonna take our historic buildings and start plopping one more floor and sell that condo for $1 million and change the whole character downtown.
But
And
it's
then you
30
are
I mean-
Birmingham, and then you are Royal Oak.
But is 3 feet so, or 3 stories so terrible if it's still within the 35?
That's what we have to wrestle with.
No, I don't think so.
And I would agree with you, Dennis, that I don't think there's anything necessarily prohibitive about 3 stories, as long as it fits the
How it looks at the
aesthetic.
street.
That's
I
right.
want it to look right.
Yeah.
And it'll fit in just fine. Sure.
I don't have a problem with that, but again, I'm one voice of
And you see
several.
how many have come forward to do it? Nobody.
Right.
Also, Chairman, if I may, not to complicate things more, we haven't even talked about things like parapet walls,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Some could conceivably go that high and make it look like it's 3 stories.
But we measure if it's a parapet flat, we measure the top of the parapet. Doesn't matter what the floors are. We don't go to the inside floor. We go with parapet, so they'd be stuck at the parapet.
They're harming themselves.
The
if they-
35 hits the top.
Yeah, they're
of the
taking away
pyramid.
their floor space,
Right,
because we have those.
Mr. Rand.
Yeah, I just like to comment with all due respect, we don't want to be Birmingham or Royal Oak. And what you just said, perfectly logical what you just said, but then you are going to be Birmingham. And I don't think the town wants it. You know, when I'm out campaigning, that's the number one thing. People want the downtown to stay the downtown.
Yeah.
And yes, you can't just stop progress, I get that, but you can, the core downtown, you want to keep it that, off that, you can almost do what you need to do.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, so I can tell you the practical difficulty, we're running into it right now. The number one deterrent and spending the money to make that upper floor different than the first floor is an elevator. So everybody tries to find a way around an elevator, and the only way you can do that, so if you wanted to put an office on the first floor, office on the second floor, and it's all your office, don't need an elevator. Office on the first floor, real estate, office of a mortgage company, that's a different company,
Gotta have
you
an
need an
elevator.
elevator. If you go restaurant, office, you need fire separation,
Yeah.
and you need an elevator. If it's residential, you need fire separation on all sides. and
What's an elevator? 100 grand probably?
About 80 right now for
Yeah.
those.
Is that to meet ADA?
Correct.
Is that-
That's correct. So the building code's protecting us that way. So here, I'm gonna throw one more wrench in here. So at the DDA meeting last night, Roger Knapp, who's been in town a long time, has had this burn in his heart for a long time. He's been talking to me about it for 2 years. And I told him, bring it up to the DDA, and I would support him, because I believe in this is the right thing. And this, I even hit you with this shit, John, but his concept is, a lot of times we found a bunch of zoning ordinances that do this. We would make permitted uses on the first floor only retail. Any service industry, or service industry. Any office, pure office, has to be on the second floor. So, and I liken that to, right now, if you come into the core, you can do retail or office, you can do upper story apartments, but you can't have an apartment that is on the first floor and the second floor. So we've already discriminated against the group. You can have apartments, but they gotta be up here. The DDA last night shook their heads and said, we would like to encourage the planning commission to change the zoning ordinance and say, office, pure office, only on the second floor.
I think they said to consider it, they didn't say to change it.
No
How many vacancies would
apartments?
you create?
No apartments?
No, if you
No,
want.
on the first floor.
Apartments go on the second floor.
Right.
But not, so only retail on the first floor. Or a
Or
beauty salon
service.
or something.
Or
but not-
restaurant.
if
So
you
would
want
that
office
eliminate-
Or residential, it's gotta be on the second floor.
What is like a mortgage office fall into?
Yeah, on the
What is,
second floor.
That's an office,
what does a bank fall into?
Second floor.
office.
Well, no, that's, yeah, it's a service industry, so they could go on the first floor.
You would have to go,
also, yeah.
you would have to literally go
For
down the
general-
list of uses and say,
general
these
office.
ones can be on the first floor.
Like you've got a real estate
These can
office,
be
that
on-
wouldn't be permitted.
These have to be on the
Correct.
second, and we.
And we have those.
Bank, we call retail.
We have those now. How do you?
No, so
That's
they'd
what I
be
mean, you create
non-conforming.
vacancies.
You'd
in the
sunset
short
them
term.
out. You'd have to sunset them out. It's a strong statement, but it stops, and what happened was Greens, right? Artero bought Greens. He's right next door, Vito. So he buys it, not sure he wants to do what he's gonna call it. It's a work, it's a work,
Yeah.
well,
Collaborative,
workspace,
please.
share workspace. So he's taken 10,000 feet, the first 5,000 on the first floor is this work share space, but he's gonna let his people in the real estate office rent the whole first floor, so they stay there. Then upstairs, he's gonna be able to have work share space upstairs. But what ticked everybody off is there's a lot of people that wanted, now that the city council has changed the parking in lieu of fee to $1,000, restaurants could have afforded to take that first floor, because now it's only $1,000 a space. So they would have had to pay about $150,000 in parking. Before it was $700,000 to add 7,500 to space. So now we just lost 5,000 square feet in the prime block of downtown to a real estate office. And they say they bring people downtown, which they do go in his building right now. There's nobody there during the day. They're all on the road doing their thing. So the DDA doing their mission is saying, we want to preserve our opportunities for retail on the first floor. I don't disagree. And I've seen other downtowns do that.
Yep.
Put them on the second floor.
Birmingham does it, not to,
Right.
you know, Grosse Pointe does.
But it's too late for Artera,
For Artera, it's too late.
unless we can negotiate with him.
We can't. So, he's pulling his building permits. But I think that's something we should consider. That would have to come in the form of we would draft a text amendment to
Well,
bring
we
it
could
in, so-
include, you know,
Right,
as we go through these,
Yep.
we're gonna talk about uses.
Yeah.
Here in a heartbeat, if we get to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, we're gonna say, we're gonna get to uses in a minute.
Well, propose it to us.
Should we close
Makes
out-
sense.
Well, are we,
So do we agree? Yeah, go on, I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say, I wanna make sure, I make sure I have this right. So, is the discussion, are we keeping 3 stories, 35 feet? So as suggested right now, as we have proposed based on the, future land use. Center Business District, 35 feet or 3 stories. Downtown Edge 1, 35 feet or 3 stories. Downtown Edge 2, 40 feet or 3 stories. Transition, that purple, 25 feet or 2 stories.
So I think the only difference of what you just said was, I thought we all agreed in the pink in the middle, by right, 2 stories, 35 feet, special exception, not special project, 33 stories, 30 feet, 35 feet. So you have to ask to put that third story, which would kind of help protect us from anybody by right coming in and say, I'm taking that building down and building an automatic 35. Then when, in the special exception rules, you say, the considerations for a special exception would be, what are the adjacent properties' height? So if they're 2 stories and only 20 feet, and you want to go 3 stories, then maybe you can say no. That, you'd have to write rules to make sure that you don't just automatically get that third story.
Specific
If that bothers
standards-
you guys, a
Specific
standard, that's what I'm
standards,
looking
and
for,
not
yeah.
leave it strictly up to discretion.
Correct.
So we would spell some things out.
If you're not worried about 3 stories, which is just see 3 bands of windows, because the height's the same, if you're not worried about that, then don't do it, so.
It's been 3 stories, 35 feet for 50 years or
Correct.
more. So it would be a down zone if we went to 2 and required a special exception.
Technically.
So,
Technically, it's,
Mr. Chairman, I think if it's been that way for so long, and it's kind of been a non-issue, I would, just me personally, I would say let's just keep the status
Live with it.
quo. That's right.
so Mayor, you're pretty vocal about that, what do you think? Are you thinking,
Well, I mean,
35 bother you more, or does the 3 stories bother you more?
I mean, it's, you know, I can't argue with what Christian said. I mean, if it's been this way for a long time, nothing's happened, it could.
It could.
you could.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And if I believe the city wants
Reserve.
to preserve the right downtown, But I mean, if the, the majority here, I mean,
I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea with a special exception where there's standards. What I wouldn't like to see is there are a couple of buildings that are really only like 1 story. So if you had a 1 story and then you've got the 3 story, but if over time you've got 2 tall 2 stories and a 3 story goes in there, I don't think that'll look so bad, but
I can tell you that, I remember this now. When John first did the master plan, you did a build out of downtown with cubes. And he said, be prepared right now. I remember, those red cubes were straight across, and they were all 3 stories.
The only way you
35
can
feet.
create more floor space. You gotta go up.
Gotta go up.
Yeah. So I remember he said, that's what you're gonna get by keeping CBD 3 stories. I remember that. It hasn't happened, but I do remember that, but it hasn't happened. Probably because the cost of construction and the way the buildings are constructed, they're all tied together. I don't know how you
It's
get
a
a
deterrent.
foundation in there.
And they're not big floor plates. I
Correct.
mean,
Yeah, most of them are
it's
like
very
1,800
expensive to
square
go
feet.
up 3 floors and
Yeah.
have such a tiny footprint. Raphael, what I think we want to do though over here is change that red.
Take CBD,
Yeah.
that should be, okay,
And
I
then,
got that.
and then take Angot, which is not on this map, and make that red. So that's on the left.
Was that a corner of Angot there at the
Right
bottom?
here?
It's, yeah, down below that, yeah, like
Right
Sarah
below.
said.
This
it's-
should be DE2, and that
Correct.
should be DE2, but this over here should be CBD?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I think
Sure,
we got through that.
right down.
is there anything, I was just looking at like I think that's a taller building at the north end that is DE1. Is there anything we need to address in there?
Where are we talking? Here?
Yep.
Go to the area.
So you'd have BP, then the karate studio, which just stays off as 1 story. Doc's 3 stories.
The one on the corner.
It's a little janky in
Yeah.
future land use plan. So they've got, you ready for this? Okay.
Yeah.
Go back to the zoning map.
Is dock 35 feet, 3 stories?
bigger than that, isn't it?
So, in the future land use plan, this property right here is designated as downtown core.
Yeah, right.
So this, what we're proposing here is a deviation from what you have in the master plan.
And it's just an apartment complex, right, Tom?
That's the BP, the new
It's
credit
like,
union.
no, it's like
Well, no,
offices,
just-
restaurants.
It's just
That circular,
this,
semicircular thing?
it's just this property is
Yeah,
this property right here.
John's right.
In the future land use plan, this, with frontage on Main Street, which includes the BP, is, future land use for general business.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm not sure what
It's almost a,
conversation was for that.
yeah, it's actually a, John, right, it's almost like a deviation from the current zoning, right? Because it's this really wanky parcel
35-3, same thing.
that has
And
this sort
his-
of hook shape.
And what he wants to put there are apartment buildings.
So I just want
That one doesn't have any apartments upstairs right now, does it?
Which
It's,
one?
this is, it's literally,
this
it's
is
not even,
commercial,
it's right,
right?
this, it's like this,
It's his
Here,
heart
John?
offices and stuff like
like,
that.
it doesn't
Yeah.
even- it's not even this entire thing, it's literally like kind of cuts across here. It's not this entire property. It goes up and then goes across. That's the parcel.
It's
that
gotta
John's
be the whole
referring to.
parcel.
It's not.
So he wants to tear down the
On the
existing
what?
property.
No, he's got more land between, vacant land between there and the river, kind of northwest of that.
Yeah.
And that's what he's got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Proposed as
No,
a
that's
3-story
Bangkok.
apartment building.
That's Bangkok.
Never brought a plan.
All the way back behind the strips.
He's got a painted sign in front of his building on Main Street.
Yeah.
Stop and look at it.
I know what
And
you're
you'll
talking
see he's got it all on there.
I think so. You just turned on.
Brought my blanket.
It's, yeah. I turned the air off at the house.
You could,
Done.
you can,
Party's over.
I can turn it up if you want.
Oh, can we?
Are you freezing?
He's the mayor, he can do
A
it.
little,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's-
Mr. Mayor, that'd be wonderful.
that's
Oh,
the one-
I'm sitting by it too.
That's the one perk of being here, right? Control the temperature.
He's the guy.
You can send me the invoice.
You have to put in your fingerprint or something?
I scan.
It's usually in the summer you come in here, so steam it, turn it way down.
It's like a meat locker right now.
It's cold outside.
Is anyone having issues getting online?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Here? Oh,
Yeah, I was
try
about,
it.
I can't, I
I
couldn't.
can't get on, yeah.
Right, I can't either. Nick, we can't get online.
Is there a way to
Completely
reset the router? Because none of us can get on, and I tried to pull
I'm
some
on your phone or on your computer?
on the computer. The
Computer.
wire, are you're probably on the city hall. We can't get on the city hall guest one.
different. Right, thank you.
Not critical, I'm just.
Thank you, I was feeling computer illiterate
I
there
was,
for
I
a
was
minute.
like, uh-oh.
It's on my
Which I
phone.
feel a lot.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
It's where you live is the password for City Hall.
For city hall?
So, I'm sorry, Commissioner King, what was your question about that area up to the north?
I just didn't know if the
I
proposed
just sent it to you now.
zoning lined up with what the current use was, given kind of the mix of that property,
City Hall is where you live.
if that was something that we need to look at at all.
Says no internet here.
So the gas station, of course,
Right.
is not consistent with the zoning standards of the DE1, right? You know, it wouldn't allow for a gas station for starters. No.
Okay.
And it would have building standards, like it has to be built to the street, you know, those kind of things. So it would create
It's
or
current
maintain, I'm
Christian
sure
shit.
that gas station's currently non-conforming, right, Nick?
Yes.
So-
No, it was B1, so it was a permitted use back then. In B1, you can have a gas station, right?
Yeah, it's B1 all the way from
Yeah.
University up to,
So we might have taken out, when we redid it the first time with you guys, we said we don't want any more gas stations in the core. So they would become non-conforming in the new district, but in the old one, they are presently conforming. Because B1 allowed them as a special use.
So.
But I think we said we don't want any more gas stations in the core, so we took that out, if I remember right.
So as long as ownership doesn't change,
No, use.
Ownership can still
Once
change.
you
Or
abandon
use.
the use.
yeah, okay.
And technically, yeah, he's a retail store with gas, is what he
So
is.
theoretically, he could expand the retail store,
Correct,
right, based on the setbacks.
Correct.
They just couldn't put in more pumps.
Correct.
Because that would increase the nonconformity.
correct.
How does the tire shop,
That's
On the
retail.
east side,
They're a
further
retail
south.
service,
Retail?
so,
okay.
no. Again, when we get into the words, well, we should be, if we want to get into those questions, we should be pulling up the district and then read what you can do in each of these districts. We're gonna get there eventually.
We're gonna hopefully
At
get there,
time.
yep.
Okay. That's when that's if things have changed in 5 years, where we don't want hookah lounges anymore, we take them out, right? That was the point of getting this into words.
So what did we decide with that hook-shaped parcel at the very top?
It's very goofy. I don't know why that's like that.
Is that a parcel designation?
Yeah, it's docks.
those are combined.
Yeah, it's docks, they're all combined. So that's docks, building, and then all the way almost to Pine Street.
On several parcels.
And several parcels.
And that whole area, north of University, west of, Main Street is all eligible for special projects. So they could come in and request consideration for an extra floor, so on.
Okay.
So in the proposed downtown edge two, I'm looking, it says residential units when located above commercial, same thing with downtown edge one. So all of that
Could be apartments on the upper story. And that's what Doc did.
In the other.
Downtown Edge 2, he just did that below and above, so he meets it today on the university building.
Okay.
Where recipes is, that's legal now because upper story apartments. It was in B1 anyway, but,
Has he rented any of that yet?
so I just talked to him and he has his first tenant. What happened was put him out for lease, and then the noise in the basement is so wicked that people were wanting to sign up. They're like, when are you gonna be down in the basement? 6 months. So he just decided to wait. So now he's basically done in the basement. So he's already starting to rent the upper story. So literally, he just started. He tried like heck, but one person signed a lease, but didn't move in because too much noise. 'Cause
You
Do you know
expect
what-
that to rent pretty quickly?
I think so, yeah.
Do you know what the rents are?
I think there's 1,800. So they're not bad, and I've been in them. They're quite nice units, quite frankly. And you've got recipes right below the street. You walk to the police station, you walk to the park, walk to the creek. I think he's gonna run them fast once he gets them going here. They're very clean. They're bright white, good appliances, and I like them. I think he's gonna do.
It's a lot higher than he originally had,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're like
I think-
900.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think the price kinda got.
Pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So do we decide, are we doing 2.5 or 3?
Oh, there you go, Patrick knows. Some of them are 2,200. He said one story, one bedroom's 1,800. So that's a lot higher than he said.
Yeah.
He can do his mulch then, no problem.
If we leave it like it is, we're at
You know?
335.
Correct.
Paid extra for that.
Talking for downtown, for CBD downtown.
That's
right?
peat moss, not.
So we're still there?
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, it is what it is right now unless we make a change.
Three or so, there's a side in terms of saying, are we doing the special exception to be 3 stories in the downtown,
I would want to see the language of this proposed special exception before I would agree to
What the
that.
standards would be before we agree
Yeah.
to it. Okay,
Okay,
that's
so
fair, John.
we can draft that.
And this will all go for public comment, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And
This
is
will
this,
be our best shot at it, then we put it out for public comment.
So I could go along with that, but I want to see how they're going to sew it up and, you know.
does that have to go to city council? All this has to
Yeah, all
eventually?
has to go to
We gotta
council.
do this twice.
So just for belt and suspenders and circle back, what's the consensus? Is it gonna be 3 stories, 35 feet?
2 by
Well,
right,
2 by right?
3 with special exception.
Okay.
We're
With,
gonna look
based
at
on
that.
standards.
Let's see what it is.
We want to see the special exception.
That's, and you're gonna, that's fine.
Yeah.
I can live with that too.
Okay, so that sort of solidifies this, but this area here is not part of the CBD.
Right.
So what is it, just B, whatever?
No.
No, it's
Downtown Edge
DE
1.
which is,
But right today, it's B, right?
yes, yep.
Yeah.
What's our,
So it doesn't change much, is
what's the big difference between downtown edge 1 and downtown edge 2?
40 feet. So you get the 40 feet in 2.
Because it's away from
5
the
feet,
residential.
okay.
And they're doing the same thing.
And there's some other differences. The front yard setbacks in the downtown Edge 1, which for lack of a better term, is a little more urban than the downtown Edge 2. Downtown Edge 1 has a 0-foot front setback, whereas downtown Edge 2 is 5 to 10 feet minimum front yard setback. So the fabric starts to loosen up a little bit when you get into the downtown Edge 2.
Any reason why the west side of Main in that block is edge 1, the right side is, or the east side is edge 2?
So she's saying up North University,
North.
up. Yeah, why are they different colors on either side of the street? Right now, they're all 1 stories on the, there's 1 2-story building on the west.
You've got the
on
Hart
east
building.
side. That's that little white building next to the suite, the ice cream place. There's that 2-story house. Everything else is Domino's and all that. That's all 1 story. Yeah, we allow that to be 40 feet.
Both sides of this, are you guys ready for this? Both sides of the street, of Main Street, north of University, are general business.
Yeah.
They're both general business.
So they shouldn't be any different. We've given that right side, the east side, an advantage of the extra 10 feet or 5 feet. Why? It's flat. I don't see why we would do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they should be the same on both sides. I think that's fair.
Okay.
Is it,
It doesn't drop off. Domino's is flat, and Catching Fireflies is flat. Then it drops off when you get by the post office. So I think,
because that's where Sargent's is, right?
yeah, it does drop off a little in the parking lot, obviously, but that's our parking lot, and we can't sell that ever, so we'd have to worry about it. So I'd say it
So
should
you
be
want this to be DE?
DE1.
These parcels should be DE1?
No, I thought I heard that both sides should be DE2.
I thought we were saying DE1.
No,
So we
Okay.
don't want to give them for additional 5 feet, right? That's what
Okay.
that's what I heard said.
That's what I heard too.
Okay,
So
I'm glad
let me
we
just make sure I'm on
clarified.
the same page. We're just talking about Main Street here. So we want these parcels here that abut Main Street, that's what we want as DE1?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure that.
We don't want those to be 40 feet.
Not on the other side. We're okay being DE2.
No, oh, I don't think we were splitting I see what you're saying. I don't think we were splitting the parcels in the middle.
I mean, most of
Because
that's
we own most of it. It's a giant parking lot. I would think that whole thing would be DE1.
This entire block,
Yeah, because what,
4 square
we
blocks.
get it's our parking lot, there's Sergeant, and then all the Firestone lot. And we can't sell it, so why would we let it be taller?
No, it's general business on the front and then interface on the back, so,
In reality, it's our,
I'm sorry, part of what it's been a challenge is trying to interpret the future land use plan here. The area on the west side of Main Street is eligible for a special project. The part on the east side, the frontage on the east side, is not eligible for special projects, but that little area that Raphael's pointing out is eligible for special
The
projects.
parking lot.
So, I don't know what to tell you guys.
Can I just ask a question? Where is the special project language housed now?
in the zoning ordinance.
But I'm saying, I mean, could we just modify that in terms of, what it applies to?
No, we have a boundary here that shows where the special project area is.
Okay.
So the question is, the area north of University on east and west side of Main Street, what makes the most sense in that area?
I just think DE1 flat, why would we want to go taller?
The frontage on Main Street.
The whole thing, anything off the frontage is us, it's our parking lot,
How about on the west side, though? Isn't that a Talos property?
right, and that should stay.
Further
3
west, back
stories.
onto,
Yeah, so that's, the reason that was there, because you're not affecting anybody, the woods.
so
and
that
then
can
Pine
stay
Street.
DE2.
That should stay DE2, correct.
Okay.
Because he said, if I could build 3 stories with big, tall ceilings, you would want me to, with apartments, so I agree with that. I
This
just don't see the
doesn't-
advantage on the,
Does this hit La Pumas?
no, we're not that
Okay.
far yet.
That's what I thought.
You're over the river.
Yeah.
To grandmother's house.
So,
That too.
based on what John is saying also, so what I'm hearing is, this frontage here on Main Street should be DE1, but this should stay DE2, and that's.
I'm saying it doesn't serve any purpose, we own it, basically. We don't own the front, here, we don't own.
The university
what we need is-
piece.
We gotta get like a bunch of screens up here, so if I just put you on Google Earth, you could see.
I can go to the satellite image, you want to do the
No,
satellite?
it doesn't do any good, you need the 3D, but anyway, just if you could picture the corner, right on that corner. So you have Knapp's Donuts, 1 story, you have the Dino's, 1 story, the 2-story house that will fall down eventually, then 1-story Dino's, and then.
Then the real estate
Then the real
office.
estate,
And then Fireflies.
and then you have the Fireflies, and our park, and then behind all of that is our parking lot. It's the Firestone parking lot, that's our lot, that we'll never sell, we can't unless we go to vote of the people. So what's the advantage of, I keep that as low as you can, what's? I'd
We
say-
have, in the rest of the city, are we showing public land in a different color, green or something?
That's-
So
it's a university.
Nick is proposing that this whole area be DE1, this area be DE1, and this area stay DE2.
Correct.
Right, okay. What about
Seems
these 2
logical.
parcels right here, Nick?
So that is.
One belongs to the gas station and one's that little apothecary shop or whatever.
No, gas station's the first one in, so it's the little 2-story. So that should be,
Is that a little 1-story
That
former
should be-
pharmacy or?
yeah, that's the little apothecary place, so that should just be DE1.
Yeah.
There's no reason.
Both those
that's
little
the right
sliver.
ones. Can you tell from there?
We're talking right here.
Yeah.
Right here.
There's 2 parcels, so that, oh no, that's Doc's.
Yeah.
No, that's the little apothecary, that should be DE1.
Both those slices?
Both, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's the little apothecary, he has 2 little.
Drive
places.
a drink.
No.
I don't know why they did that.
How long are we gonna be
No,
doing this right
no,
here?
I think we're not, no, we're looking the wrong.
Not much
no.
longer.
Yeah, you brought it.
One more question. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, that's the building, and this is.
So this should be DE1 basically.
John, how about if we do another 10 minutes and call this a night?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Whatever your appetite is.
Yeah, that's about our appetite.
Can I throw one more
Yes.
thing in here? This is what Patrick and I found this week, which is very discerning. So, elevator site, they came in to develop the elevator site. Well, Sherry's partner is Rewald. They came in and we told them, because we thought in the past, it was all in a Pica. It was all in a project. So, as we were pulling it out, and then Solaronics came in and said, oh, we're special project students, you can say no to. So we looked, and both of us were like, what's with the map? The dashed lines on the elevator line follow a property line. There's two properties on the elevator on an angle. The line went through the middle. Can't do a special project in the part, that's not a special project. Like, why would anybody draw that map like that? Beckett's like, we followed the property line. Well, no, it's a separate parcel. Solaronics, we put in, remember we put Hell Row?
Yeah.
So I know we did it right. We put the Hell Row and we skipped Solaronics. So the only way both of these projects now can take place, which isn't a bad thing, is pure rezoning and then build to the zoning classification underneath it. So we had to tell Dominic Mosheri, the whole premises were wrong. You can't have a special project. Well, I want to give back to the community, I'm going to save part of the barn and all that. Okay, you can still do that in your site plan, but we're not going to be able to do it as a special project. So,
Unless we amend the master plan.
correct, that's correct. Or they can come in with a conditional rezoning where you make a development agreement and it acts kind of like a PICA.
Maybe that was a mistake, and it should be corrected.
So my story is, should we be looking at where, John just pointed out, oh, that's a PICA, that's PICA. I'd like to see next time all the PICA lines in each one of these districts. Maybe we don't like them. Maybe we don't want that to all be a PICA anymore. I don't know if those lines had any discussion. I think Beckett didn't get into that.
We didn't talk about
We didn't
those.
talk about it.
Wait, so
That scares me.
does Solaronics come to us or no?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's
No,
the
but if
November.
it's not a special
Oh.
project,
Oh, yeah, it's not the rezoning to
Zoning comes to
RM2,
us.
and that has site plan with it.
I don't believe there are PICAs anymore.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, there are.
Yes.
Put that back in,
There are.
yeah.
Well, it's called
It's
special-
called a special project.
Special project,
It's the
special
same
project,
thing.
okay.
We wanted to keep that.
Right,
We wanted
did,
that
and
latitude.
I love them,
Zoning?
but I think we should show them on these
Oh, I
maps
thought
so that
that
we
was
can
gonna
say,
say
Yeah,
change
those
those.
from now on,
They do
sure.
vary.
There was a
Yeah.
mistake, so that can be corrected.
Because they're gonna not like you, yes.
But by the time they
What are
get
you
through that.
talking, well, we can talk
Yeah.
about
it's
later.
been discussed
gonna
many a
help
time.
with those
Oh,
two
citizen
properties,
commission.
Yeah.
Probably.
Thanks.
So,
What's Mosseri want to do there on the elevator?
Pardon me?
What's Mosseri want to do on the elevator?
So actually, he only wants to do 3 stories. So if you can picture the project, so where the elevator is now, you take back about 2/3 of it to where the original thing was. He makes that a clubhouse, keeps it there. We have to go to city council and let him keep the building in our easement because he's in our property. Then he goes 3 stories along University, 3 stories down Water, and those are rentable units, but you rent all 3 stories. 2-story, by ordinance, you can only, the way it is now, forget that. 3 stories, so you go live, work, but you
Work
have
has
do
to
the
be on
work.
that bottom floor.
It's gotta be your work, it can't be an office user, so.
But that's contaminated, you can't put,
Oh, you can, it costs a lot of money, but you can do it. So we
It's
got $1 million grant to help them
prohibitive.
clean it up, so they're gonna get to that, so. And then along the river, it's 2 stories condos. So there's only 37 units on this whole project. 37, on
River.
3 acres,
How does it,
that's awesome, versus the same acreage,
million
with
each.
Solaronics is 107 units.
how
So
does,
Mosherry's doing-
When you say the river, are you talking Solaronics?
No, I'm talking, it's, well, it's
And the,
Sunrise.
Behind
Sunrise.
Sunrise, yeah,
Yeah.
I
okay.
said the river, I'm not sure.
next to,
Correct.
where it touches
There's a
Sunrise?
little piece that gets down by, it's.
Behind
it's not the
Sunrise.
river, It's Sunrise,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry.
And all the parking's
So
between.
it's gonna be 2 stories on the backside to the west, and then 3 stories in the front, live, work, straight up and down.
And all the
Where's
parking's in
the,
the middle,
yeah.
between, parking's in the
Parking's
middle.
You come from the inside, I think.
There's all
and
the
then you
tires
plug in.
going.
Live, work,
It's a dump. And
Live, work.
doesn't look like those have been terribly successful.
I would agree with that, but the key with these things is that can be your man cave. It doesn't say you have to work there, it says you can work there. So if an attorney wants to rent that, fine, you could hang a shingle there, but you can't rent it out to somebody else to hang a shingle there. But you can make that whatever you want it to be, so.
they did a whole bunch of those over on Hall Road and Shaner, kind of
Those were big failures.
Big failure.
colossal failures.
Romeo, same
I'm not
thing.
sure-
Belleville,
he'll
same
talk to
thing.
us and
That's
do
okay.
that. I don't get it.
Yeah. What are they gonna do with the barn?
well, I was
They're
just
gonna restore it, make it their clubhouse, or they've offered, we'll give it to you guys. We're like, what are we gonna do with it? If you're gonna fix it up and make it a museum, that's one thing, but if you're gonna, but they wanna save it, cause he wants to get the political capital.
Where are they gonna
by
put it?
saving Pardon me?
Where are they gonna put it?
Dick's
They'll leave it right
backyard.
there. They're gonna reshape, they'll have to take it all
Leave it right
apart,
there.
redo it all.
Oh, they'll
fix
keep it on the
inside, put a-
corner?
Yeah.
Put a bathroom in, there's no water in there, never has been. So they'll put a bathroom, make it a clubhouse, and then put a garden around the outside so people, their own tenants or anybody can come in, sit, read a book.
That's a big ticket item to fix that, because we've been through that before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Those would be $1 million contracts.
easy,
Yeah.
easy.
All right, so when do we get together again?
How's our first meeting?
No, It's a brutal meeting, first meeting in October, so it's gonna be the second meeting in October.
Well, that's gonna,
20th.
And now it's getting worse, yeah. Is that, oh, that's still Onyx?
No, November.
No, that's
Onyx is
November.
We moved it.
Oh, that's November.
We're not here.
So we're good, so you guys wouldn't be here for that one.
So you're wrapped up now for the night?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, just following the, agenda here. Next, item is 7, miscellaneous. Nick, anything miscellaneous before we get to your upcoming? Okay. Public comment again, number 8. Any other comments from the public, either in the room or online? Anyone waiting?
There is no one waiting.
Thanks, Rose. Okay, number 9, upcoming agenda items. Nick?
Right, so we're trying to catch up and not overload you guys on meetings, but there's a lot of stuff right now. So, October 3rd, and John Vidy's we're gonna deal with her tomorrow. We gotta get the St. John's, they're back, and remember, they built their whole infrastructure out. They're done. They need to build the building that they said they're gonna build to get rid of
And they're ready to build?
they're ready to go, and we're a little hung up on Vidy's review, but we're gonna get that right. So that's gonna be on October 3rd.
Okay.
Catch what else we got for October?
getting it together, sounds like
Michael
it's gonna
Baker,
work out.
is he making it?
No.
Was that ever approved in the past?
And so it's St. John's.
The Blake Realty?
Michael Blake
I
Realty.
think we did do that
We
one
did.
a long time ago. Blake Realty?
He did, but so he was gonna fill in the second story.
Yeah.
And he bought the building, he's like, nah, I'm gonna just do the first floor.
So his approval expired?
It expired, so he's coming back, so.
For a
he's
second
coming-
story again?
Pardon me?
Second story again?
No.
Just to redo the facade on the first
He
floor.
wants a
All right.
third story plus the, no, just kidding.
Yeah.
So we have Kruk cards, so, yeah, that's right, all right. So-
What is Crook
So Kruk-
Cards?
So down on Campbell, all right, Campbell Street in the
Yeah.
industrial place, all the landscape guys are in one building. There's 2 buildings there, Kruk Cards and all the landscape guys. Kruk Cards is a gray building that has $10 million worth of collector cards on the inside. If there's ever a fire there, it's over. It's
Cards?
insane. They
Like
have
baseball cards?
baseball, trading cards, like literally $10 million worth. So that's what George does. So George is a very nice soul, and when people die in the industry that are trading card people, he'll go buy semis, not even know what they are. He'll buy semis full of them. So in the night, he would bring them in and put them on his property. And he was kind of hiding them down. If you've ever been down there, it's not good.
It's worth the visit.
Down by the river?
Yeah, he's down by the river.
In a van.
So then all of a sudden he tucks up, so he's got a approved site plan when he put his salt shed up back in 2012. Yeah, so he showed on his site plan along the north property line, which is adjacent to the condos, it's a big drop, and there's trees there. He has large staging spaces for trucks to unload. That's what his approved site plan. So he started dropping the trailers in and leaving them. And this young woman named Jan Darrow, her and her husband built a duplex there. So she started saying, what's he doing? This started 5 years ago, calling me, like once a month. I think he's dropping another one. And pretty soon they start staying there. Then he started painting them at night green, the tires, everything. And in his mind, that's a green wall. There's 8 of them now. And she said, enough. We sent code down there, said, get them all off the site.
Non-conforming use.
Yeah, you can't, you're violating the site plan.
Yeah.
3 years, we got to court finally 2 months ago, and the judge is like, you have to give them the right to go to the planning commission to ask to keep those trailers. I said, okay, so he submitted a site plan. Vidia tore it to shreds because it was a joke.
Yeah.
So he said, nice try, went back to the judge.
Not professionally prepared?
Correct, and we went back to the judge and said, he's playing a game to not get to the planning commission. So we're gonna put it on, whether he likes it or not, we're gonna recommend denial. It won't
Okay.
meet your standards of a good site plan, so he hired Peter Stolreier to draw the plan, and Peter starts arguing with the attorneys in court, you can't make me do this. Well, yes, we can. So we're gonna bring it, whatever form it's in, we're gonna bring it, you guys will look at it, and if you want 8 trailers there that are painted green with the Darrow sitting in the audience, then you approve it, but we're gonna make them, we're gonna force a decision, so we go back to the judge and say, planning commission denied it or approved it, whatever you think.
Just give us the cover and, Yep.
Absolutely.
Do you know what court this is in front of? Is it?
Yeah, it's in front of, Julie Nicholson.
Okay.
Yep.
District
So-
Last time
Judge
Peter was in
Nicholson.
here, I had an 8-hour deposition
Yes.
with the
Which-
Lenore, with the dentist office.
Oh, over on,
Yeah.
So, all right, so that one's
Walnut
that.
around.
We've had a little slow.
Nick, can I jump in quickly? Nick, can I jump in?
Who's that?
who is
I'm
speaking?
Croc.
Jeff Croc.
Oh, yeah, Jeff, yeah,
So-
sorry.
The voice.
So let me just update. So there is nothing active at the court at the moment. There is an order entered that says that they're going to go to this planning commission and they will comply with whatever the planning commission decides. They're going to seek outside storage, which is the biggest issue. So they're going to seek that. That's part of the site plan. So there is an order entered. The case is over at this point. So they entered a consent order, and it just kind of lays out timeframes for complying with either the existing site plan or whatever they're able to convince planning commission is appropriate for a new site plan. So I just wanted to kind of update that.
So Jeff, if the planning commission denies it and he doesn't take them down, we have to start over in court?
New case.
No, there's an order that requires him to comply with the original site plan.
Okay, that's what I thought, all right. So I thought that meant it was still open, but it's technically closed with an order. Gotcha.
How old
That's
is the
correct.
I
existing site
apologize if
plan?
I misled that.
How old is the existing site plan?
Oh, 2002, Jeff, the site plan, the original one?
Yeah,
Approved by
like
the Planning
06
Commission
maybe.
and Council.
Yes.
And it showed up at
2006.
like the salt barn outside storage, so you're gonna see a proposal that allows for outside storage, which in that district requires enclosed fencing and so it'll be interesting, but this is the first, we told them, if you wanna do something different than what's approved, then you have to go to planning commission, so that's where we are. We pushed, essentially pushed, I don't say pause on the court, but we entered an order saying, we're gonna let this process happen, and then whatever happens at the end, they have to comply with within the X amount of days, so.
And you'd have to go back to court to enforce it if they,
Yeah, if they decide that they're not going to, or they don't meet it, then that's the only reason we would get the court back involved, but
Could you make sure we have the
court will
original
never
site
need
plan
to see
and-
us again unless they don't comply with the court order.
Yeah, you'll have the original site plan, the original notes,
Yeah,
what they said he
yeah.
could do, what they couldn't do, and then the proposal in NVIDIA's report saying.
and it's
this is
zoned
the difference,
what right now?
Industrial.
Okay.
So you can do outside storage, but it's gotta be approved by the planning commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I ask, when, is this for October 3rd?
Yes.
Is it possible to have pictures of what it looks like now at that meeting?
We have those, Jeff, don't we, in the court order even?
You're talking like an aerial?
Well,
No,
just
probably
if someone was to
The
walk,
answer is yes, we can get that.
you can get, just so we can see what it looks like presently? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get that. Okay, then, all right, so that's that. We were trying to get, so Mr. Collage, that owns the Spartan, frustrated with the process, I'm not gonna lie, said, I'm just painting it and gonna fix it up, and it's taking too long. I can't logistically, financially, do all the things that's on NVIDIA's report, even though they're right, a dumpster enclosure, build a wall that's already there. I'm not doing that, so I'm just gonna paint it and keep it. So Patrick, Matt, we're gonna meet with them next week.
I think set a date with them.
Okay, we're gonna try to calm them down a little bit and say, nothing she asked for is out of, he acknowledges we have the right to ask, but he's like, it's ridiculous, I'm just trying to fix this place up and I'm not adding anything, why are you making me do all this stuff? So, stay tuned on that one. It said, Michael Blake, he hasn't returned his drawings yet, so that'll be the next meeting.
He's frustrated as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're trying to get through those. And then, downtown Inn, I just told you about that, the Roxy. So that's gonna be on October 3rd.
What is the Roxy?
We're gonna list it as,
Right, yeah, so we're working with Vinnie to try to get that on, get it on. So, all right, so the Roxy is this Village Shoe Inn.
Okay.
The owner is Chuck Thibodeau. His mom and dad, Marion and his dad ran that forever. My wife got her high school prom shoes there. It's been there forever. It's an icon. Mom and dad died. Chuck is my age. Can run circles around me. He still plays goalie in hockey at 68 years old. He's a character. He's a musician, passionate man. His mom and dad died. They left him a lot. So he always helped run that business. But on top of that, he was a musician, a traveling musician. So he said, I'm gonna not disrespect this building, I'm not gonna sell it. So he said a vision came to him, and his mom said, turn this into a music venue for the public. So he started all by himself, 18-hour days with his son, redoing the whole inside and restoring it to, it's pretty cool.
Was that a church?
It was a church. So they found stained glass windows behind the drywall. It's pretty cool. So a friend of his is the guy that runs not Ernie's, in Romeo.
Right, they've been to
The DDA.
Yeah.
So I forget
Like
the
Front
name of it.
Street
It's
and
like-
Lake Orion?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
there's Front Street and Lake Orion, then this guy runs the one in Romeo, and it's a nightclub. It's like dueling pianos,
Yeah.
music, I forgot the name, Garrett's or something. So he came in and said, I will not buy your building, but I will run this, and I will turn this to a spectacular venue. So they hired a great team, they came in, and it's gonna be called the Roxy, if it goes through. They even paid the money to put a 4-inch water main on our new road, so that if they're approved, they'd have fire suppression for the building and not rip our new road, so they're serious about this. Hired traffic consultants, because it seems simple, but it's a 312-seat theater, a stage theater. So the idea, the way he describes it, is a band's coming from Chicago to go to Detroit to play in a casino, not Aerosmith or something, but a Bachman Turner Overdrive, he said. Somebody down a little bit. They want to come in, and on the way, they've got a day to kill. They're going to go in there and do it. Ticketed event only, 312 people, no food, drinks, and finger foods. The idea is you buy your ticket, and it's ticketed. So you buy your ticket, come into town, go eat somewhere, then come to the Roxy, then go someplace to drink, or whatever you're going to do, to go for dessert or whatever, sorry. So push the business downtown and entertain. So dueling pianos, work with School of Rock, work with the church groups, choir, make it a community place to have music and entertainment.
How are they gonna park it?
So, he has 37 parking spaces, so because you guys in the, city council changed the parking a little to 1,000, they need 100 parking spaces, I think. Is that right? Yeah, I think around 100. So, he said, I have two choices. I'm gonna park nobody on my site, because I wanna green it up. I wanna put a sidewalk down Pine Street, green it up. And we ended up getting to a compromise of 37 spaces on his property for VIPs and drop-offs and
Staff.
stuff, yep, and staff. And then everybody else goes and parks, which fills up our parking structures. And he has to pay $67,000 up front, or you can do it on a payment plan, for the right to park. So all that sounds great financially for us, but staff, we spent hours with their team, and we said, we want you to know what you're getting into. And I said, I know my planning commission, and what they're gonna talk about is, that sounds really cool. Number one thing in all of our visionary things,
Yeah.
things that we've had, get us a theater, get us
Yeah.
some place for music. Everybody says that.
This was at the thing last year at the
At the
Royal
DD
Park that was
exactly.
talked
So-
about
So
passionately.
it checks a bunch of boxes, but this is how we think. So me and Chief Steve, Patrick, we sat down and started looking at arrows. And okay, all 300 people come out, maybe they all decide, great show, I'm tired, I'm going home. I'm filled up in the deck. Our deck doesn't open the gate. You gotta wait, put your money in, I can't find my $1.25, and you could be there for 3 hours getting out of the deck. Then when I come out of the deck, well, I'm gonna go south, so I'm gonna make a left. Well, there's two, when you come out of the gate,
Yeah.
you can have two cars stacked before you're blocking the gate. If you turn right and you go to Walnut and say, I'm gonna go west, and then everybody else came out and went up Pine and turned right, you're never gonna make it. We're really worried about how the traffic's gonna work. So we said, for the first time in our life, we're gonna have to maybe really get involved to say, it might be no right turns only out of the deck from 11 till midnight, right turns only at Walnut to University at certain dates. We're gonna have to really think our way through this flow of traffic. We can't let the people go into the neighborhood. They've got sound acoustical engineers up the, you know what, to make sure that that sound stays in that building. We're worried about traffic, and then people drinking, coming out, you just sang the last song and you're singing at midnight, and it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, possibly. We're worried about during events, big bright light show. You think you're gonna find a parking spot for, say, 2 cars, 2 people per car, 150 spots? Where? And we don't want them to take the spots first so that our patrons can't go to the restaurants or what they wanna do. if they all came early for dinner, all the spots in downtown are gone. So they even said, we'll buy the software that will, on our ticket, it will charge $4, because we only charge, in the deck, it's 24 hours. So if you stayed there 4 hours, then on your ticket is a surcharge of $4 that they pay the city directly. But you can't park in that deck by them, you have to park in the east deck, because that's not used very much at night. So the idea there is, you're gonna walk downtown and eat, so big deal, you gotta go to your restaurant closer. When it's over, you walk 2 blocks to get to the east deck. It'll drive traffic away from all the congestion on here. So it's been deep thoughts. They're pushing hard. They want to be open like in the spring. They're really not changing the character of the building. They're going to paint it. They're going to landscape it, clean it up, even leave the ivy on the building, do the inside spectacular. And so it seems really easy, but I think it's going to be a very difficult.
Very difficult, very challenging.
We got to really make sure we get this right, because we all want things in town, but it's not very, other than our deck.
That's like everything at once.
Exactly. So, okay, so that's.
Great idea, great
We
idea.
love the idea and we love them, but we gotta make sure we get it right for them and us. If you had a bad experience coming there one time, I can't find parking, or there's no place to go after because all 300 people go out at the same time. It could be an issue. So that is gonna be on the 3rd. We're gonna, they even wanted special meetings to move it along, but we told them, no, it's a tough review for video because there's so much going on, but we're gonna at least get them on this agenda on the 3rd. Let them give you the whole program.
Strictly as a presentation.
Nope, as they're paying their money and coming in. So it's because our site plan's complete. The only thing that's not complete will be our discussion about how are we gonna handle the operation.
Not a
It's
public
the site
hearing.
plan.
This is our first discussion with them.
Would be to set.
It's to set the public hearing when you're ready. But we own that. They've
But
done
they'll
the
be
work.
prepared to do a presentation.
Oh, yeah, they're
on the
gonna do the
3rd.
full on everything. They're gonna give them a good half an hour.
And you may decide not to set the public.
Right.
Correct.
Depending on how far off they are.
Yeah, and it's really operation. Site plan's easy. They're gonna pay in lieu of parking. We're gonna do the lot beautifully, landscape it, but it's the operation that we're all have concerns about, so. Mayor,
Okay.
you know, when the Royal Park came in, people had to worry about where the traffic was gonna go, I'm sure. I know they had a lot of parking, but boy, that was changed life there too, I'm sure.
That was back in the day when it was a special project.
Oh, that's right.
It didn't come to the city council.
Oh, that's right.
What is this?
We had the Royal Park.
Oh, okay.
We had nothing to do with it.
No
That's when we
kids.
changed the rule.
So the planning commission did the whole thing?
They don't have
Yeah,
enough parking.
2 meetings. They said 2 meetings? Wow. So Youngers, Patrick, it's called Youngers in Romeo. That's the
Okay.
place that they own. So so it's gonna be a full meeting on the 3rd.
What about Preserves of Rochester? What is that?
So they're hung up still with video and review, so I don't think they'll make.
What is that, though?
Oh, so that's Joey LaChurco coming back at the cement plant.
Okay, I
So
got
he
it.
downsized from 120 units to about 70, and they're 4-story buildings along the river that are townhomes, and then 1 4-story building in the middle that are apartments. So
I see
he's
that
got-
Rochester Hills is doing something just south of there on, what's that, Colbert?
Well, yeah, that's supposed to be a public store. That's on, no, it's on, yeah, my buddy lives on that street.
Colport or?
Coalport, or, yeah, there's 2
Nothing to
streets
do
up,
with-
Childress and Cloverport,
Nothing to do with
us.
LaChurco?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's up on the hill, and they want to build public storage on residential land, which they're fighting. I think Jeff knows about that one, so.
Okay.
But yeah, so Joey's coming in with that also. As soon as he wants to be on as fast as we can get through the review, so we're waiting on video reports, and then we'll see where we go from there.
And nothing on Randazzo?
Welcome to the planning
He
commission.
hasn't come
No
back
problem.
with his brownfield plan yet.
Sounds neat.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
What's going on with the building that manufactures like one shift a week for the F-250, and
Yes,
it was gonna be
yep.
storage, and then it died out?
Yep, so
Unlike
what happened
other-
was, so that's,
Yeah.
yep, the former, plastics facility,
There you go.
Yep, Superior Plastics. So, Scott Ronan owns that building. So you saw the sign go up, down, up, down. So the guys that make the dually fenders, and then they do other GM special parts in there, they asked for a 10-year extension to the lease. So he agreed to it, and then they said, I think we're just kidding. So he said to them, either you sign or I'm putting it back up on the market. So they keep fighting back and forth. So right now, nothing. A guy came in and said, if you gave Mosherry 6 stories on the corner, I want 6 stories. Like, look at the future land use plan, no way. You're not getting that there. with all the apartments above it and everything, so nothing at this point. The Rah-Rah building.
Rah-Rah?
The Rah-Rah building.
Big
manufacturing
tanks.
building.
The big, you can see the plastic that was held. The old Rah-Rah building sold. It hasn't closed yet, but they're closed.
Yes.
So that,
Yep.
the
And
guy that
Elizabeth?
bought it for his son to run a private basketball facility in it. It's what it is now, basically. It's a public facility, so it's just gonna be basketball, no more volleyball, rollerblades. It's gonna kinda be like a Joe
Pretty much
Dumars.
the same use.
Yeah, so,
Like Joe Dumars thing?
so
Yeah.
yeah, it's kinda like a Joe Dumars thing, yeah, but, I think he might do
Rah-Rah
roller hockey
building?
inside, but
Second Rah-Rah.
it's same use. And he already got a special
one that's-
accessory
Yeah,
for
in the
recreation,
industrial.
so it's fine.
Yeah.
It's more like a weightlifting.
Isn't it connected?
Fun times.
No.
No.
That
Okay.
has to
This
come
one.
before us.
Further up.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That? No.
That will not have to come for it if they don't change the rates. They're not touching the building.
We already approved that years ago. Yeah.
Rah-Rah in the middle. But it's a different,
It's okay,
Oh, I've
as
never
long
been
as they
there.
stay recreation use, they don't have
but
to
it's
come
a,
here.
I mean, it could be like a different crowd though.
Right now, it's basketball, volleyball. It's the same exact thing, basically. It's private now. So, as long as it doesn't change the use.
Why is it not closed? Is it
Right now, they haven't, because, the guy.
been a while?
Because Rah-Rah, to be conforming, has to give 23 spaces of their other building to themselves. And the guy's like, well, what if I don't want you using those 23 spaces? It's like, I become non-conforming, so they had to write a title work up, say, you
Got
get the 23, so they're fighting over those
It was
things.
obvious something was going on.
Yes, so I'm assuming it's gonna go.
Lawyers.
Lawyers.
I'm telling you,
Good for you, man. It gives you.
can't imagine a
Anything
world without
else? Anything else? Nick, is that it? Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone have anything else for the good of the order here? So unless anybody objects, this meeting is adjourned.
them. All right.
Points for the good of the order.